I'm not trying to give spoilers, but woo, these Pear Frangipane tarts came out so good. The Frangipane especially, so good. Okay, so for our dough, it's gonna be super easy. Starting with 113 grams of butter, which is one big stick of the 8 tablespoon, to a food processor, food blender. I'm gonna add half of the stick, and also gonna add 1.5 cups of flour, and we're gonna sift this. I have this like hand sifter on the side, which is so much better than the finger one. And then cornstarch. That's a little odd, but first time trying this dough and it worked. 1.5 teaspoon of cornstarch. I don't know. I've never seen cornstarch in doughs that I've made so far, but it really worked out. And then we're gonna pulse this a few times so it just breaks down the butter but doesn't like blend it into it, because we want those little butter sticks in it, and it has to be cold as well. Cold water, 1/4 cup of cold water. We're gonna add a quarter of teaspoon salt and 1 teaspoon sugar. Let this melt in it. I'm using cane sugar, that's why it looks brown. Let it melt in it. This way it's gonna distribute salt and sweetness throughout the whole pastry. And I'm gonna add the remaining of the butter into this, and then sunflower oil, also something new for me in the dough, 2 tablespoons. So what this is gonna do, it's gonna make it easier for us to work with the dough, because usually doughs like this, they are very flaky. That means when you're trying to mold it into the tart mold, it can break and crack on the side and make it less appealing. But this oil trick is gonna help it basically stick together. And look, the dough is done. I think I have a link for this food processor in my description. It's so good. I have 3 different kinds of size of the same model. So worth it. I love it. I use it at least 3-4 times a week. Frangipane, 6 tablespoons of room temperature butter. To this, I'm adding half cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 teaspoon salt, and I'm using a hand whisker to blend it in, because I feel like it's such a small amount of butter that if I use my stand mixer, it would always just get stuck on the bottom and I would have to stop and scrape, stop and scrape. This is just easier and faster for me, and I'm gonna beat this until it's like creamy light colored. Now this recipe is King Arthur's recipe, which is that brand that makes flour, the almond flour that I'm using right here. From the almond flour, we're gonna add 1 cup, and also gonna add into it 3 tablespoons of flour, all-purpose flour. Now for Frangipane, there are so many recipes and they are very different for some reason. There's this one other recipe that I saw that looked really good. However, it has 3 eggs. In my recipe, in this one, I'm only adding 1 single egg. I mean, King Arthur is a very big brand in baking, so I believe in their Frangipane and it turns out great. The other recipes don't usually add flour, so I think that's one difference. In here, we did add flour, 3 tablespoons, and then 1 single egg, and I feel like it is still moist, but not like runny, because if you add 3 eggs, it's gonna be very runny, and usually you need to make enough for 1 tart. And the other recipe I'm talking about, that was filling for 1 tart, so it would be very, very eggy. For this, I'm adding 1 teaspoon almond extract. Yum, I love it. It's basically the filling of a bear claw. I love bear claws so much. If there's one thing you can take from this recipe, I don't know. The dough is also really amazing, but this Frangipane is really, really good and so simple to make, and you can get so creative with it because you can use it in so many ways. Okay, so the dough that I refrigerated, which I think I forgot to mention, we did refrigerate it for an hour. It is ready to roll and shape, so I put some flour down and it was still a little thick. I need 6 the individual tart cups, so I'm measuring it by cutting a brick size of dough into half and then cutting that into 6 pieces. If you want to be very precise, you can use a weight scale to weight it out, or you can just make one whole tart. You don't have to make 6 individual ones, but I have like the tart sheet pan and I love it so much. It's like non-stick and it's amazing. I think I'm gonna use it forever and it's probably gonna outlive me. I'll show you just in a bit. So I'm rolling these up, getting it prepared for my tarts. This is the sheet pan. I think I got it at Home Goods. Oh, I'm not even sure. It's a really good brand, very sturdy. And so I'm using a cup on the side because I saw this hack, and cooking baking is always about like finding tips and tricks, and I saw this one where you can push it down with the cup and it got a little sticky. The dough itself is not too sticky. I mean, it's a little wet, little sticky, but really not too bad. So I dipped it in flour, and well, I think there is an idea behind this method. It's just the glass I was using, or what I have, is not really great for this. You can very easily push it down and then mold it into it, like push it in the corners. But the glass I was using had a dent in it. It's like a design dent in it, so it was leaving the middle too thick. And then I tried another cup, and it was still working the same fine. But yeah, with fingers, you would have get like very similar results, really. I just did 2 more with the cup, and then the last 2 I did with hands because it just got too much. I'm gonna bake these tarts halfway, so about 10 minutes at 375 before I put the filling in to make sure the dough is not raw. And I made a tiny mistake. I forgot to poke holes in my tarts like while it's raw right here. I should have poked holes. It was so late at night. Spaced out, but halfway through I remembered and I opened the oven. I poked some, but I just add some a little more. This is just to prevent the middle from rising, which it did a little bit, but then it fell back down, so it's okay. Didn't make much difference at all. For my Frangipane filling, I'm always adding a little bit, an equal amount into each, and then the remaining I will distribute it evenly. That's always better than to run out and then trying to figure out which one to remove from. With the back of the spoon, I want to show you a difference. When the spoon is dry, it's gonna be very sticky and hard to spread it around, as you can see right here as well. So dry back of the spoon, it's spreading kind of hard, but right here we have a cup of water and we're just dipping it in, and it's so much easier to spread. So have a little cup of water on the side and then dip your spoon in it, and that way you can like easily spread it, and it's just so much easier. Right here again with the back of the spoon. Look how quick that is. So quick. Okay, moving on to the pears. So for the pears, I'm using 3. We're going to put half in each tart, or you can use 3 for a whole tart. These were like super soft, so I couldn't create that fancy like cut in the middle and then push to the side and leave the stem on it. So I took out the middle and then sliced it up, and I just did like an avocado trick where you press it down with your fingers sideways and it just nicely fall on each other. Go on there with a knife, pick it up and put it on the tart as well as you can. Or if you can't do that, you can just put them on individually, slice it and then put it on individually. But I like this method. It still looks very pretty and very elegant. If you don't want to use pears, you can use basically any fruit that's easily baked. Like with apples, you kind of have to like pre-cook it if it's really hard. But I drizzle some honey on it and I put it back into the oven for another 12 minutes. For me, you gotta keep an eye on it. It's ready when the tart is beautiful brown, and this is what it looks like. Drizzle some more honey on top just to add some sweetness. I also thought about putting some nuts in it, but I think I've just been doing this so often that I just wanted to leave that out. I wanted to show you what the bottom looks like really quick. It's super hot. I could not resist. I had to dig into it. It was so good. Oh my god. So delicious. The frangipane on the bottom, it was just like heavenly, and it's pretty pretty a lot. Like, it doesn't look like a lot here, but we definitely got a good bite of everything. The pear is soft, it's juicy, it's tasty, and this is what it looks like next day. I left one for next day to show you what it looks like in the daylight. That's all the filling. The dough is cooked, the pears are beautiful, everything just tastes so good. We ate all 5 last night, so it's a foolproof recipe.